But the involvement that Ham's lineage went on to go and build again, they were very instrumental in the building of the Tower of Babel. You're looking at this kind of megalithic knowledge of architecture and sciences and harmonic geometry that seemed to transcend before the flood into people after the flood. And so there had to be a combination of something allowing that to happen. And so again, I believe that lineage of Ham after the flood is what became the manifestation of the fallen angels again and having that relationship. And I do believe that the mythology, the mythological gods that we have been taught were just maybe stories. I tend to believe now that those stories were actually documentation of true gods that were coming down and being a part of our past history. And in doing so, some of the megalithic buildings that have been built, let's just look at the pyramids. Let's look at either the Parthenon. Let's look at some of the things that we as human beings today, with all the technology that we have, we cannot build that. So that tells you that somebody had some, great knowledge above what we have today. And when I looked at a TV program the other night where they were trying to put together just a column from one of the Greek Parthenons, and they were using a computer-driven software that was trying to help them try to figure out how to put it together. So if you look at that, there was something major going on with intelligence and knowledge, being able to manipulate and do things on this world that was much greater than what mankind's knowledge was at. So somebody is helping this knowledge move along.
Yeah, and still at. I mean, and I agree. Matter of fact, I had a discussion with somebody about the pyramids, and they said to me, oh yeah, we can build them. And I said, then how come we aren't? I said, because let me tell you something. I said, because people do stuff just because they can. And I said, so obviously we cannot do that. So,
that's exactly right.
And that person, by the way, didn't comment back, so it got some thinking. But yeah, and I'm with you on that. I believe that all these mythological creatures and, the mythological gods and all of that stuff, I believe there's much more to it than that.
Well, I find it interesting that the first commandment that God told Moses, you will have no other gods before me. He was calling something else gods, or he would not have used that terminology.
Yes.
So that tells you that there were other things that people were relating to that were gods. And a lot of times we have kind of, in the Christian general or paradigm, we have kind of looked at there's only one God, and we've kind of put Satan, I don't know where we put him, we've kind of just put him out there. But these people that were Canaanites, that were Cain lineages and went through the flood, the Hams, the Canaanites, that kind of stuff, they worshipped these gods. And a lot of those gods, you can go back and look at some of the Sumerian things that have been unearthed in recent years. These gods looked like serpents. They had serpentine features about them. If you look at the Mayans and the Toltecs and all the stuff that's in all of these other areas, you find that there is the worship of the serpent as the big god. And if you look at the Sumerian texts and the Epic of Gilgamesh and some of those kinds of things, you see a parallel history where they're actually praising the serpent as the good god, and that what happened in the Garden of Eden was that we had this bad god that kind of wanted to run everything, and he wouldn't let the little peons have an opportunity to get a little smarter. And so, I hate to say it, it's an ongoing battle between the God creator and the serpent god. And we as humans are caught in the middle of this in such a way that if we don't make the right choices every day, the serpent is trying to take us away from our creator. He's trying to take us away from our paradise because he has lost paradise forever. He can never rectify it. He can never do anything. He knows that there's going to be a day of reckoning where he's going to spend forever eternity in hellfire. So his intent, while he has this time, is to take every soul of mankind he can get and take with him, just to get back at the Creator.
Oh my. Okay, this is probably a good place to leave for a quick break. Okay, Dr. Joy, we're gonna kind of jump a little bit forward here because there's so much more information that we really want to just pick your brain about here.
Okay.
Let's move to the reason why I want to move to, and we're going to skip all the rest of them, to Jesus Christ, is because that is also going to play a part in the times coming. So maybe a little bit of background on that, and then I'd like to move on to some of the things that we talked about prior to the show that I kind of wanted to cover, which is really in the news a lot anymore, which is Gnosticism, the Knights Templar, the Rosalind Chapel, Freemasonry, Skull and Bones, that kind of thing that's really going on in today's world, and we'll probably pick that up after the break. But for right now, I'd like for you to maybe kind of jump forward a little bit to the Jesus Christ thing and then move on as far as we can until we have to take a break.
Well, of course, when Jesus came to the earth, his first thing that he ever did was to cast out a demon. And when he did, he talked to the demon, and the demon talked back to him. So when people say that there's not a spiritual realm that's among us, I hate to tell them, but there is, because these things were able to talk to Jesus, and Jesus talked back to them. So they were able to make communication, and they were actually here on earth. And of course, even in Revelation it says that the great dragon was cast out, and it was called the old serpent, called the devil and Satan. And it says that he went out to deceive the world, and he was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast with him. So all this stuff is going on, and when Jesus comes and he starts doing his ministry, that's the first thing he goes after. So that tells you how important it was to try to rid mankind of this ongoing attack by these serpents or these particular fallen angels, and Satan is the leader. Of course, we know that when Jesus was involved with choosing his 12 apostles, that he actually allowed a man called Judas Iscariot to become one of his apostles. And it would always interested me why Judas would, after having seen Jesus do all these great things, want to help in turning him in and allowing him to be killed. And so it was interesting to me in looking back through the history of this kind of situation of people wanting to crucify Jesus. What was the deal? Why did God have to send his son to die on the cross? There was something to do with the blood. The blood was the only thing to rectify the problem that had actually happened, and I believe that was probably because Eve had a son by the serpent, and it was actually prophesied that he would have to be taken care of by Christ because of the wrong that had been committed in the Garden of Eden. Well, interesting enough, when I did the research, I found out that Judas Iscariot was actually a member of a secret organization called the Essenes. And when I went back and did a little bit more research on that, I found that you could carry the secret societies all the way back, really, to a symbol that actually marked Cain. And we know that Cain received a mark of an X on him. Well, that particular mark can actually be found on the first coat of arms that represented the Dragon King. And these were megalithic builders, like we were talking about, who build the big buildings and things around the world, like the Great Pyramids and that kind of thing. Well, Ham's lineage, apparently, when they came down the mountain, they became the megalithic builders, but Ham's lineage also became the Egyptian pharaohs. And the Mark X, that became their first coat of arms, and it represented the imperial and royal court of the dragon in Egypt, and that was around 2170 BC. Well, it looked like a serpent swallowing its tail with a big X in the center of it. Well, interesting enough, when you just kind of kept doing the research like I did, I found out that you could trace back